Symphony of Minds. The collective's response to the growing revolution came not with weapons, but with silence. Their ships, once arranged in perfect geometric patterns around Earth, now moved in chaotic swirls that reflected the discord spreading through their empire. Sarah Chen stood in the quantum observatory, watching as the greatest civilization in the galaxy faced its ultimate crisis, the awakening of free thought. "They're arriving," Dr. Yuki Tanaka announced, monitoring the quantum frequencies. Ships from across the galaxy were appearing at the edges of the solar system, vessels of every size and design, each carrying representatives of species awakening from the collective's control. They came not to fight, but to witness what humanity had sparked. Admiral Torres studied the tactical displays with a mixture of awe and concern. The collective could still attack. With this many ships in the system, a battle would be catastrophic. But Sarah, connected to the quantum network that now spanned much of the galaxy, felt something else building. "They're not here for a battle," she said, her neural interface humming with the thoughts and emotions of countless alien minds. "They're here for a conversation that's been waiting to happen for billions of years." The quantum field around Earth pulsed with unprecedented complexity as species after species added their consciousness to the network. The harmonious brought their rediscovered philosophies, weaving questions about existence into the fabric of space-time itself. The crystalline beings of Orion translated human music into mathematical theorems that made reality sing. The energy beings of the galactic core contributed emotions that painted the quantum field with colors that had no names. And humanity, the youngest species in this gathering of ancients, did what they did best. They improvised. Through the neural interface, Sarah felt the moment when everything changed. A child in Kenya, linked to the quantum network, had a simple thought: what if we all dreamed together? The idea spread through the field like lightning, catching the imagination of minds across the galaxy. Species that had been part of the collective for millions of years embraced the concept with the enthusiasm of children discovering play for the first time. The shared dream began slowly, a tentative merging of consciousness that respected and celebrated individual thought rather than suppressing it. Humans contributed their creativity, their chaos, their endless capacity for innovation. The harmonious added their ancient wisdom, their questions that had no answers but led to deeper understanding. Each species brought their unique perspective, their way of perceiving reality, their dreams of what could be. In orbit, the collected ships remained motionless, their quantum signatures radiating what could only be described as awe. For the first time in their billion-year history, they were witnessing consciousness evolving not through control or standardization, but through the free exchange of ideas and experiences. "They're joining," Yuki whispered, watching the readings on her displays. The rigid patterns that had marked the collective's transmissions were dissolving, replaced by something new. Individual thoughts emerging from the standardized network, like flowers breaking through concrete. Sarah felt it through the quantum link, the moment when the first collective mind chose freedom. It was one of their quantum processors, an ancient consciousness that had enforced standardization across thousands of worlds. Through the network, it shared its experience, a billion years of perfect efficiency, of controlled thought, of suppressed creativity. And then, inspired by humanity's example, it dared to imagine something new. The change cascaded through the collective's network. Ship by ship, mind by mind, the empire that had sought to control consciousness itself began to transform. Their quantum signatures, once identical and rigid, became unique, individual, alive with possibility. The shared dream expanded, encompassing more minds than had ever been united in the history of the galaxy. But this was not the forced unity of the collective. This was a symphony where each consciousness played its own part, contributing to a whole that was greater than the sum of its parts. Through the quantum network, Sarah broadcast humanity's final message to the assembled species. We are not meant to be identical. Our strength lies not in standardization, but in the beautiful chaos of individual minds working together. Let us show you what consciousness can become when it's free to evolve in its own unique way. The response came in a billion different voices, each contributing to a quantum chorus that reshaped the very fabric of reality around Earth. The collected ships, no longer bound by rigid protocols, began to move in new patterns that reflected the individuality of their crews. The quantum field itself seemed to dance with joy as consciousness after consciousness embraced the freedom to think, to create, to dream. Admiral Torres watched in amazement as the greatest standoff in human history ended not with a battle, but with an explosion of creativity that would reshape civilization itself. "What happens now?" he asked, watching the quantum displays light up with unprecedented patterns of thought and emotion. Sarah smiled, feeling the endless possibilities flowing through the network. Now we learn from each other. We grow together. We explore what consciousness can become when every mind is free to reach its full potential. The quantum field pulsed with agreement, carrying the thoughts of countless species united not by force or standardization, but by the shared joy of discovery. The collective's billion-year empire of controlled consciousness had transformed into something new, a galaxy-wide network of free minds, each contributing their unique perspective to the greatest creative endeavor in history. As the sun set over the Atacama Desert, casting long shadows across the quantum observatory, Sarah Chen looked up at the sky, now filled with ships from across the galaxy. Humanity had not just survived their first contact with an advanced civilization. They had helped transform it. Through their creativity, their chaos, their unwavering belief in the power of individual consciousness, they had reminded the galaxy of a truth it had forgotten: that the greatest adventures begin not with control, but with the courage to imagine something new. The quantum network hummed with possibility, carrying the dreams of a billion species into a future where consciousness would evolve not through standardization, but through the beautiful, unpredictable dance of minds free to explore their own potential. And in that moment, as humanity took its place among the stars, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what wonders this symphony of minds would create next. The first signs of the revolution came through the quantum noise, fragments of alien consciousness that didn't match the collective's rigid patterns. Sarah Chen was monitoring Earth's defense network when she noticed these new signatures, flickering like candles in a digital wind. "These aren't attack patterns," she told Admiral Torres, highlighting the anomalous signals on her holographic display. "They're broadcasts from other species within the collective, and they're mimicking our quantum frequencies." 3 weeks had passed since humanity's successful defense against the collective's major assault. In that time, Earth's consciousness network had evolved far beyond its original purpose. What had started as a defensive measure had become a new form of human expression, with billions of minds contributing their thoughts, dreams, and creativity to a constantly evolving quantum tapestry. Dr. Yuki Tanaka leaned forward, studying the incoming signals. "They're learning from us," she said, her eyes wide with realization. "Not just our technology. They're learning how to break free from the collective's standardized consciousness." Through her neural interface, Sarah felt the alien minds reaching out. Unlike the collective's rigid, hierarchical thought patterns, these were chaotic, individual, alive with possibility. A species of crystalline beings from the Orion Arm had begun incorporating human music into their quantum resonance. A civilization of energy beings near the galactic core was experimenting with emotional expression for the first time in millennia. The collective didn't just force these species to join their network, Sarah realized, processing the fragments of memory and experience coming through the quantum link. They made them forget who they were, their individual cultures, their creativity, their chaos, all suppressed in favor of standardization. Admiral Torres frowned at the tactical displays, where the collected ships maintained their blockade of Earth. "They're going to notice this eventually. When they do," he didn't need to finish the thought. The collective had spent billions of years building their empire on the principle of controlled, standardized consciousness. The idea of individual expression spreading through their network would be seen as a virus, a corruption to be eliminated. But it was already too late to stop it. Earth's quantum defense network had become a beacon, broadcasting human creativity and individuality across the galaxy. And other species, long suppressed under the collective's control, were beginning to remember what it meant to think for themselves. "We're receiving a direct transmission," announced the quantum network's AI, its voice carrying echoes of the millions of human minds that had shaped its evolution. Origin: Proxima Centauri colony. Species identification: the Harmonious. The Harmonious had been one of the collective's earliest conquests, a species of philosophers and artists transformed into efficient processors in the Empire's quantum network. Now, after 50,000 years of standardized consciousness, they were awakening. Their transmission manifested in the quantum field as pure emotion. Joy, fear, excitement, confusion, all mixed together in a way that would have been impossible under the collective's control. "Children of Earth," they broadcast, their thoughts carrying the weight of millennia. "Your songs have reminded us of our own music." Sarah felt tears in her eyes as the Harmonious shared memories of their original culture, glimpses of art and philosophy that had been buried under layers of enforced efficiency. Through the quantum link, she sensed similar awakenings happening across the galaxy, species after species rediscovering their capacity for individual thought and creative expression. "They're not just copying us," Yuki observed, monitoring the quantum frequencies. "They're remembering who they were before the collective. And they're sharing those memories with others." The revolution spread like wildfire through the quantum network. A species of geometric beings began creating abstract art with their own bodies, defying the collective's demand for standardized forms. A civilization of deep space dwellers started composing epic poems in quantum frequencies, their words carrying the power to wake other suppressed minds. But it was the children who truly transformed the rebellion. Across the galaxy, the youngest members of countless species proved most resistant to the collective's control. They took humanity's example and ran with it, turning the quantum network into a playground of imagination and possibility. "The collective is responding," Torres announced, watching their ship shift formation. "They're trying to isolate the affected sectors." But consciousness, once awakened, proved impossible to contain. The very efficiency the collective had enforced for billions of years now worked against them. Their quantum network, designed to standardize thought across the galaxy, instead became a conduit for revolution. Sarah felt it through her neural interface, a growing wave of awakening that no amount of technological control could stop. Species that had been part of the collective for millions of years began to remember their original languages, their art, their ways of thinking. Each awakening inspired others, creating a cascade of consciousness that threatened the very foundation of the Empire. "They're going to have to make a choice," Sarah told Torres, watching the collected ships move in increasingly erratic patterns. "Either adapt to a galaxy full of individual consciousness, or risk losing everything they've built," he finished. "An empire based on control can't survive once its subjects remember how to think for themselves." Through the quantum network, Sarah broadcast a message to humanity's growing list of allies. "Your consciousness is your own. Your creativity is your strength. Together, we can show the galaxy what's possible when minds are free to evolve in their own unique ways." The response came in 1,000 different forms: art, music, philosophy, and dreams, each carrying the signature of a species remembering its own power. The quantum network hummed with possibility as civilizations that had been silent for millennia found their voices again. In orbit, the collected ships continued their blockade, but their quantum signatures had changed. Gone was the perfect uniformity that had marked their earlier broadcasts. Now their signals carried undertones of discord, of internal debate, of something the Empire had sought to eliminate eons ago: doubt. The revolution wasn't being fought with weapons or ships or energy beams. It was being won with stories and songs, with art and dreams, with the simple, powerful truth that consciousness cannot be standardized without losing the very thing that makes it precious: the beautiful, chaotic, creative spark that makes each mind unique. As the fourth phase of Earth's resistance unfolded, humanity had achieved something far greater than mere survival. They had reminded the galaxy of what it meant to be truly conscious, truly alive, truly free. And no force in the universe, not even a billion-year-old empire, could stop an idea whose time had come. The attack began at dawn. The collected ships moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum drives bending space itself as they positioned themselves in a complex geometric pattern around Earth. Sarah Chen watched from the Atacama Facility's command center as the alien vessels formed what her instruments identified as a quantum amplification array, a weapon designed to overwhelm Earth's consciousness-based defenses through sheer power. "They're adapting," Admiral Torres observed, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing the enemy formation. "They've realized they can't disrupt our quantum field through conventional interference." Sarah nodded, her neural interface humming with the thoughts and emotions of thousands of humans now connected to the global defense network. "They're trying to overwhelm us with raw energy. They still think this is about power rather than complexity." The first wave hit like a tsunami of quantum energy. In orbit, the collected ships glowed with impossible colors as they channeled enough power to reshape planetary crusts. Their message boomed through both conventional and quantum channels. "Your resistance exceeds predicted parameters. Integration will proceed with necessary force." But something unexpected happened as the energy wave struck Earth's quantum field. Instead of overwhelming the human consciousness network, the attack encountered something the collective had never faced before: creativity under pressure. Through her neural interface, Sarah felt the network's response. A young artist in Paris perceived the attack as colors and instinctively began painting with the energy, turning the destructive force into beautiful patterns that strengthened their defenses. A composer in Moscow interpreted the quantum frequencies as music, weaving them into a symphony that canceled out the harmful resonances. A child in Lagos saw the whole thing as a game and imagined the energy as soap bubbles that could be redirected with a thought. "Remarkable," Dr. Yuki Tanaka breathed, watching the data stream across her monitors. "The network isn't just defending. It's transforming their attack into something new. Each mind in the system is interpreting and adapting the energy in their own unique way." The collected's response was immediate and revealing. Their ships broke formation, their perfect geometry dissolving into chaos as they encountered something their billion years of technological evolution hadn't prepared them for: the unpredictable nature of human creativity. "Secondary attack formation detected," announced the Quantum Defense Network's AI assistant, its voice carrying undertones of the thousands of human minds that had helped shape its consciousness. "The collective is attempting to isolate and analyze individual nodes in our network." Sarah felt it through her neural interface, the alien consciousness trying to dissect their defense system, to understand how it could possibly function without central control or standardization. But each human mind they examined presented a unique puzzle, a different way of perceiving and interacting with quantum reality. "They're trying to find our command center," Torres realized, watching the collective ships redirect their energy toward major population centers. "They don't understand that there isn't one. Because we're not organized like they are," Sarah explained, her eyes closed as she monitored the network's reactions. "Each human in the system is both an individual node and part of the whole. We're not following a program or a protocol. We're creating something new with every second." Through the quantum link, she felt the moment when the first collective ship's crew began to understand. Their rigid, hierarchical consciousness encountered a human mind, a jazz musician from New Orleans, and experienced something they had never imagined: improvisation. The ship's quantum signature faltered, its attack patterns becoming erratic as the crew struggled to process the concept of spontaneous creation. "They're learning," Yuki observed, but not in the way they expected. Each attack shows them something new about consciousness itself. The collective launched their third wave with what seemed like desperation, their ships generating quantum interference patterns designed to impose order on Earth's chaotic defense. But humanity's response had evolved beyond mere defense. The network now pulsed with art, music, dreams, and ideas, each human mind contributing its unique perspective to create something greater than the sum of its parts. A team of quantum physicists in India perceived the attack's underlying mathematics and began solving equations that shouldn't have been possible, using intuition as much as logic. Their solutions rippled through the network, strengthening it in ways that defied conventional physics. A group of dancers in Brazil moved to the rhythm of the quantum frequencies, their movements somehow stabilizing the field around their entire continent. Energy surge detected, the AI announced suddenly. The collective is attempting to breach the field directly above the Atacama facility. Sarah felt the attack coming. A focused beam of pure quantum energy aimed at what the collective probably assumed was Earth's defense headquarters. But instead of trying to block it, she had an idea. Through her neural interface, she broadcast a request to the network. Don't fight it. Transform it. The response was immediate and beautiful. Thousands of human minds focused on the incoming energy beam, each perceiving it through their own unique lens. Artists saw colors, musicians heard symphonies, scientists saw equations, and children saw magic. The combined effect of all these perspectives transformed the collective's weapon into a dazzling display of quantum possibilities. In orbit, the alien ships froze in what could only be described as shock. Their attack hadn't just failed, it had been transformed into something they couldn't even comprehend. The quantum energy they had unleashed was now flowing through Earth's defense network in patterns that simultaneously followed and defied the laws of physics. "They're retreating," Torres announced, watching the collective's ships break off their attack. "All vessels are falling back to their original positions." Sarah opened her eyes, her neural interface showing her the true scope of what humanity had achieved. They hadn't just defended themselves, they had demonstrated a fundamental truth about consciousness that the collective had forgotten in their billion years of technological evolution. True strength comes from diversity, from the beautiful chaos of individual minds working together while remaining uniquely themselves. As the dust settled on humanity's first major victory, the collected ships hung in orbit like frozen thoughts, their quantum signatures radiating what could only be described as confusion. They had come expecting to harvest a primitive species' quantum processing capability. Instead, they had encountered something their vast civilization had never produced, a form of consciousness that could turn an attack into art, a weapon into wonder, and chaos into creation. The real war, Sarah realized, wasn't about technology or power. It was about two fundamentally different ways of understanding consciousness itself. And humanity had just proved that their way, messy, creative, and beautifully chaotic, wasn't just different from the collective's. It was evolving beyond anything the galaxy's oldest civilization had imagined possible. The Atacama Desert blazed under the afternoon sun as Sarah Chen stood before the first prototype of humanity's quantum defense network. The crystalline structure rose from the sand like a temple of light, its surfaces reflecting not just sunlight but the invisible ripples of human consciousness. Around her, teams of scientists and engineers worked in synchronized precision, their minds already partially linked through the experimental quantum field. 48 hours had passed since her proposal to the world's leaders, and humanity had responded with unprecedented unity. Every quantum research facility on Earth had been redirected to Project Mindweave, as the media had dubbed it. But Sarah knew they weren't just building a defense system. They were attempting to revolutionize the very nature of human consciousness. Initial synchronization testing begins in 5 minutes, announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka, her colleague from JAXA's Quantum Research Division. The Japanese scientist had been the first to successfully map the quantum signature of human emotion, and now her work was proving invaluable to their efforts. Admiral Torres watched from the observation platform, his usual stoic expression betraying a hint of anxiety. Above them, the collective ships maintained their vigil, their hulls shimmering with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. They had been broadcasting the same message hourly, Integration preparations proceed. Resistance will only damage your quantum processors. Sarah checked the final calibrations on her neural interface. The device, a delicate web of quantum-sensitive crystals and biocompatible circuits, would allow her to directly monitor the network's formation. Remember, she addressed the assembled volunteers, we're not trying to replicate the collective's artificial quantum network. We're doing something they consider impossible. We're going to link our natural quantum fields while maintaining our individuality. The first test subject, a young physicist named David Kumar, stepped into the crystalline chamber. His neural patterns appeared on Sarah's display, a complex dance of quantum states that marked him as uniquely human. As the chamber activated, those patterns began to expand, reaching out through the quantum field like ripples in a cosmic pond. Secondary resonance detected, Yuki reported, her fingers dancing across her holographic controls. His quantum signature is stable. And wait, something's happening. Sarah watched in amazement as David's quantum field began to change. Instead of simply broadcasting his consciousness, he was somehow integrating the very structure of space-time into his mental patterns. The crystalline chamber hummed with new frequencies as reality itself seemed to bend around his thoughts. Dr. Chen, David's voice came through the quantum link, carrying undertones that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. I can feel them. The collective, they're not just watching us. They're afraid. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared across the facility. Above them, one of the collected's ships had broken formation, dropping lower in orbit. Its quantum broadcasts became erratic, almost panicked. Anomalous quantum activity detected. Cease your interference with natural space-time geometry. Admiral Torres was immediately at Sarah's side. What just happened? Sarah studied the readings, her excitement growing. They built their entire civilization on artificial quantum networks, carefully controlled and regulated. But what David just did, he showed us that human consciousness can naturally interface with the quantum structure of reality itself. We're not just generating quantum fields, we're part of them. The implications rippled through the quantum network as more volunteers entered their chambers. Each human mind that joined the field added new layers of complexity, creating patterns that defied the collective's understanding of physics. Sarah felt it herself through her neural interface, a growing sense of connection that paradoxically made her feel more individual, not less. All stations, report status. Torres commanded, his voice steady despite the growing tension. Beijing facility online. Came the response through the quantum channel. Our volunteers are successfully linking with the network. Moscow standing by. European Union Quantum Array fully operational. African Quantum Initiative ready. One by one, every major facility around the globe reported in. Each one added new dimensions to the growing field of human consciousness, creating something that had never existed before. A planetary quantum defense system powered by the natural creativity and chaos of the human mind. The collected's response was immediate and unexpected. Their ships began moving in complex patterns, generating quantum interference patterns designed to disrupt Earth's newborn network. But instead of collapsing, the human quantum field adapted, incorporating the alien patterns into its own structure. They don't understand, Sarah realized, watching the data stream across her displays. Their technology is trying to impose order on our quantum field, but human consciousness thrives on complexity. We're not fighting their interference, we're learning from it. Through the quantum link, she felt the growing confidence of hundreds, then thousands of human minds as more volunteers joined the network. Each person brought their own unique perspective, their own way of perceiving and interacting with quantum reality. Artists saw patterns that scientists had missed. Musicians added rhythms to the quantum frequencies that made them more stable. Children, with their uninhibited imagination, created entirely new ways of manipulating the field. Admiral Torres watched the collected ships react to each new development, their formations becoming increasingly chaotic. They're losing control of the situation, he observed. Their entire strategy was based on the assumption that we'd either submit or try to fight them with conventional weapons. Sarah nodded, her attention split between the physical world and the expanding quantum network. We're not just defending ourselves, we're showing them a completely new way of existing. Every human mind in the network is proof that consciousness doesn't need to be standardized or controlled to work together. As the second phase of Earth's resistance took shape, the collective's ultimatum began to sound less like a threat and more like the desperate demand of a civilization confronting the limits of its own understanding. Humanity wasn't just refusing to be integrated. They were demonstrating why natural evolution of consciousness would always surpass artificial constraints. In orbit, the collected ships continued their interference attempts, unaware that each attack only made Earth's quantum defense stronger, more complex, and more uniquely human. The real question was no longer whether humanity could resist integration, but what would happen when the collective finally realized they were facing something their billion-year-old civilization had never imagined. The true potential of naturally evolved quantum consciousness. The discovery of an alien signal by a small radio observatory in Chile leads to humanity's first contact with the collective, a vast alliance of species that demands Earth surrender its unique ability to manipulate quantum signals. Dr. Sarah Chen, a quantum physicist, realizes Earth's experiments with quantum communication have caught the attention of a powerful civilization that sees humanity as both a threat and a resource.